Well, you've probably done a few more wine toasts than I have. Do you have any toasts that you'd like to toast, or would you like me to lead us off?
You know what? I think we should be toasting to new friendships, continuing success, and making our community better by educating and really experiencing every compliment and everything that all Bellingham has to offer.
Awesome, and keeping people clean.
Here we go. Keeping people clean. Cheers.
Is that from Burgundy?
This is a French Burgundy, and it is a Pinot Noir varietal.
See, I knew that just by the taste.
By the taste.
Yeah,
You're such a wine connoisseur.
Wow. Growing up every day.
Cheers.
All right. So welcome, everybody. We have Anne-Marie Faiola here on Building Bellingham, and we're on episode 5.
Wow.
And we made it. We haven't been canceled, and it's not because of me. It's because of our crew. So they're pretty awesome. But so thanks for coming in. We have the Soap Queen, and we're gonna dive a little bit more into what that means. But you are the Soap Queen. Tell me more about what it means. What is the Soap Queen?
What's a Soap Queen, and how did I become a Soap Queen?
Yeah.
Who bestowed that honor?
Yeah.
So Soap Queen is something when I went to MIT to go back to school to kind of figure out how to run my business at the age of 27. My teacher, Vern Harnish, said, you know what, you need to own your corner of the marketplace. So you need to say whether or not you're like, say, and his example was dry cleaner. So he's like, be the dry cleaning king or queen of your town. And if you can't be the dry clean of your town, then be it of the small little area you're in or the neighborhood. And just whatever it is, own your space and then grow it and grow it and grow it. And so I was like, gosh, what would I want to do? Because at the time, I was selling raw materials to manufacture soaps and toiletries. And I was like, well, I'd really like to be the Soap Queen. But of course, no one could buy soapqueen.com, right? That domain was totally locked down.
Who had that locked down at that time?
There was a woman, this lovely lady, and it turns out she was lovely, that had it locked down. And so I went to the Who Is database, and I started sending her notes in the mail and sending her soap in the mail and explaining why I wanted soapqueen.com and how I would use it for good. And when I finally got her on the phone, it turned out, and this was, 13 years ago, she had turned down a $500,000 offer from like Days of Our Lives or one of the soap operas to get soapqueen.com. But she loved my story and she loved the entrepreneurial aspect of it. And she was pretty heartened by the consistency that I had sent her notes and the gifts and all of that. And she kind of took pity on me. And so then we kept in touch for almost a decade after that. And she was so happy with how I used the domain name to teach people how to make soap in their own homes. And she felt really good about it in the end. And I felt really good about it.
That's amazing. And what was she using Soap Queen for? Like, what was her business?
She was sitting on it.
Oh, she was getting ready to sell it.
She wanted to sell it, and
wow.
I ended up buying it for $500 when she had been offered $500,000 by soap operas, but they didn't match her values set. So she wasn't sure what she was going to do with it.
Soap operas.
Yeah, like Days of Our Lives, One Life to Live.
Yeah, I get it. That's wild. So you came into her and you just showed her what you were about, what you were doing.
Authenticity. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to change the lives of people worldwide by adding creativity into their lives and letting them make better products and they can buy on the shelves. And can you help me do that?
That's so awesome. That's great.
It felt really good at the time, and it still feels good.
Well, and I looked at the website, and it's fantastic. So you've taken Soap Queen, which was probably just sitting there. It went nowhere.
Right.
And you created this amazing website. And we'll probably dive more into that a little bit further in.
Sure.
But I want to talk about you and how you got here, because you have such an amazing background, and how, like, it's totally. You sit down with people and you wonder, how did you get to this point in your life? And it's so amazing to hear the story. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background. I think I heard somewhere that when you were a kid, you wanted to be an FBI agent.
Oh, I did want to be an FBI agent. That is a true story. So I actually, when I was a kid, I was super entrepreneurial. I bred Russian dwarf hamsters and sold them in high school.
What kind of hamsters?
Russian dwarf hamsters. They were a specialty kind of hamster I could make more money on.
Can't get them at PetSmart?
Well, no, at the time you couldn't. And then my dad's a doctor, and he helped me design like a birth control system for the hamsters so I could control their breeding cycles and all the things.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good times.
How many hamsters are in a litter?
Well, 8-ish.
8.
So, like, if I could control their breeding cycle, then I could go around, and it was Lewis County, Chehalis, Centralia, Washington.
So that's where you're from?
Yeah, and sell people hamsters. And you couldn't buy those hamsters locally. So that was my little niche. So that's how I made money, and that's how I learned about retail and customer service and placing ads. Back then, it was the classified ads in the newspaper.
You got to be careful with those, though, right?
Well, yeah, now you do. Well, in hindsight, like 16 or 17 years old driving around to houses to deliver hamsters doesn't feel safe in hindsight, but at the time, it was a great way to learn about business.
It's part of the process,
all
yeah.
cash business too.
So who bought hamsters?
Well, everybody. Like, I mean, like anytime some like little tiny cute furry creatures, like it's a great way to teach your kids about responsibility, right? You don't quite want the dog, but you want something that they need to care and feed for. So hamsters was good. So I did Russian dwarf hamsters in high school. And then since I wanted to be in the FBI, I applied for the FBI and I didn't get in the senior year in college. And they said, well, come back the next year. And I was moving to Bellingham. And the police department at the time up here wouldn't take anybody that had had corrective surgery on their eyes, like LASIK or any of that stuff.
Interesting, okay.
And I'm sure that's changed. And so the next best thing was to be a correctional officer. And so I became a correctional officer at a medium security prison in Lacey, Washington.
I know Lacey.
Uh-huh. And then I was a correctional officer at the work release minimum security prison up here. And
you went to St. Martin's as well, didn't you?
I did St. Martin's. I went to St. Martin's, got my degree in psychology, emphasis in criminal justice. So I really wanted to help people. Like I had a serious passion for helping people. And corrections was a great way to do that because I thought when I went into it that there was all the cycle of poverty, abuse, lack of education, lack of good nutrition, lack
More
of
systemic than anything, right?
Right, lack of good role modeling. And so with my sort of Pollyanna-ish attitude, I thought for sure that corrections would be a great place for me to help make a change. And the reality is when I got into it, it turns out that all the systemic issues were just, it was overwhelming and it felt really...
It was worse.
Yeah, it felt scary and it felt sad. Not scary as in a dangerous physical situation, but just as a hopeless scary. Just like, this is not changeable. So I was going home every night and I was making soap. And I'd been making soap and selling soap since I was 16.
And what kind of soap were you selling at that point? And what was your operation like at that point?
When I was 16, I was going in Lewis County and getting tallow. So I was getting like actual beef trimmings and rendering it myself. So making it into an actual usable fat. And then turning that into soap and selling it at Travers Electric, which is literally this general all-purpose store in Lewis County and at the gym down there and through my mom's friends and that kind of stuff. So when I was 16, I was doing that. And then when I was 18, 19, and 20, because I graduated with my 4-year degree when I was 20, I was selling it at farmers markets and just little stores, whoever would take it.
So, okay, so let's take a step back here. Why soap? So at that point, you're in your job at the correctional facility down in Lacey, and you're at night making soap. What do those days look like? You go to work. What was your work schedule like? What was your soap schedule like? What did that look like?
Sure. So I was always a crafty girl. So whether it's knitting or decoupaging or cooking, I love to cook and I love to bake. I love to make paper. I'm always a crafty girl. And soap was one of these really amazing things where alchemy, like science meets art. And so all of a sudden you take something and you take nothing and you make something, and you take something that people actually want and they're going to use. So it's a consumable art form. And with handmade soap, it is really better than the stuff you can buy at the grocery store shelves. And so I was making a superior product. It really matched and met all my creativity needs because you can do a lot with soap. It really is a canvas.
You can't be very creative in prison, right?
No, you can't be terribly creative in prison. That is one way to actually get yourself hurt, for sure. And so what would happen is I worked the night shift when I was working minimum security. So I would work the night shift. I'd come home and sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'd make soap. I'd wrap the soap, and then I'd sleep a little bit more. I was doing the phasic sleeping, the triphasic sleeping concept, and then I'd go back and work. And then on weekends or weekdays, I would either do store runs or I would try and sell soap at farmers markets and the like.
Wow. Okay. So, and I want to step back to, you were talking about, and this is kind of a no-brainer. Obviously, we know your soap is superior to other soaps. However, I want to know, what is the biggest difference if I go and I buy a bar of Irish Spring? Oh, your favorite buzzword, Irish Spring. What is the biggest difference, or maybe what's the biggest difference between your soap that you make, or that you were making at the time, and kind of the next kind of bigger box, soap product that you could find in
Sure, yeah.
Safeway or whatever.
Those types of soaps, like the Irish Spring, for example, is what's called a synthetic detergent bar. So it's typically pressed together detergent, so like sodium lauryl sulfates or kind of harsher ingredients that more strip your skin, which is why you feel like you need lotion after you use those bars of soap. Whereas with handmade soap, it's usually made with like real oil, so like coconut oil, palm oil, olive oil. There's all the retained glycerin. So a soap making byproduct is called glycerin. Glycerin is a clear humectant. Humectant means draws moisture to the skin. Commercial companies strip that out of the soap making process to sell it as a byproduct because that's what you can do. Handmade soap retains all that glycerin. So in general, it's just more moisturizing and conditioning for your skin. And if you buy handmade soap, you can always have it customized to match whatever allergies you have. Say you have a nut allergy or something like that. So
That's
you
amazing.
won't find yourself having to use lotions or anything because your skin, once it gets used to actually using handmade soap, it'll start naturally staying moist and supple.
So basically what you're saying is the reason I was so itchy back in college is because I didn't have lotion and I was using Irish Spring.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
don't do that.
Don't do that. And plus, when you buy handmade, you're supporting small creators.
Yep. That's awesome. Okay, so you're at during the day, you're at your day job, and then you are on this entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yeah.
And you're working the weekends. You're at farmers markets. How did you get plugged in with the farmers markets? How did that continue to grow? What was that experience like? How many were you selling per day?
Well, so when I was a correctional officer, this was like a fun, cool, awesome hobby that I did because I loved it, and I always love a side hustle, and I also don't like to not be busy. So I was serving on the Allied Arts Board at the time, and so they literally had a printed booklet of craft shows around Washington State that you could apply for. And so I just had to go open the booklet and be like, oh, there's going to be a craft show out in Bow, Washington. Bow Edison.
Bow.
And it looks like I just call this phone number to apply. And so then that's how I would do that. And then I was serving on the Allied Arts Board. And so their holiday festival was a really big thing for me. And then when it came time to quit my job as a correctional officer, because it was just so clear that I was
You had enough, yeah.
Well, no, I didn't leave out of disgust. I left because I wasn't good at it, and I was really sad. Like I couldn't help these guys. There were so many final straws, but one of them was when you work minimum security work release programs. These are the best of the best. They're not hardened criminals. These are like your white collar criminals, and they're supposed to be rehabilitated, or you're supposed to be able to rehabilitate them. And my kind of final straw was I only worked that minimum security job for 9 or 10 months. And in that 9 or 10 months, there was one guy that got let out in my month 1, and he was back by month 10, which meant he had reoffended, gone through the actual prison system again, had been released again to work release because he was the best of the best, and he was back. And that's when I was like, oh, this system is broken. It's so broken the way we have to start all this earlier. And soap making makes me really happy. I'm going to quit my job.
You were in a moment where you felt, was it despair? Did you feel like a little bit of despair when you saw the same person come through the system a couple times? What was that? What did that make you feel?
Despair, hopeless, incompetent, right? Like, oh my goodness, why am I here? What am I doing? Could I make more of a difference? Like, if I was selling soap to people, could I make more of a difference if I was teaching people how to make soap so they could quit jobs that they didn't find fulfilling? And that's when kind of the aha moment hit. And I put $15,000 on a credit card at the age of 20 and ordered my first 5 kind of raw materials and tossed up a Microsoft Word website for Brambleberry.com, which is where I sell all the raw materials to make soap now.
And this is circa 98?
98.
Yeah.
This is when Amazon was losing 25 cents on every dollar of product it shipped out because no one knew how to make money on the internet yet.
Wow. Okay, so tell me about this process. So you use a lot of social media. You use a lot of media at that time because social media hadn't grown.
Social media wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't around. Yeah. Google, I don't think.
MySpace, maybe.
No, MySpace wasn't even there. Google. Yeah. So it was chat rooms. It was like Yahoo groups and chat rooms back in that day. And then email listservs. And
tell me about that. That sounds like a grind.
It was a grind. I worked so much. I still work so much, but it's a different kind of work now.
you can work a little bit smarter now versus harder. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, well, and the tools are so much easier, right? Digital tools are so much easier. I coded my first website, HTML, right? Like the first website, Brambleberry.com, had a prodigy.net email address, and it was a Microsoft Word document that I tossed up there with some HTML coding. And the second one was called a Dansie, DANSIE, shopping cart. And I literally coded it myself because you could learn HTML. HTML is a really easy language to learn. But now, right, you have Shopify, you have all these just like plug and play WordPress content management systems that are so easy. And back then, none of that stuff was easy. So yes, it was a grind because the tools just weren't readily available.
So you created your own website, and I just want to make a parallel. When I was in college, I took a computer science class, and I spent 6 hours on what I thought was going to be a beautiful website. It turned to be a drop-down bar with like 3 things. So I'm very impressed that you created your own website because I'm probably not capable of that. So
yeah, it's so
kudos
funny.
to you.
I'm sure anybody that's ever done any coding is like, oh yeah, been there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. And then all of a sudden I drop down. I'm like, I have only 3 options. Why not 4? But I worked. What about option per hour?
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. So you created your first website. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about this. It was a direct-to-consumer email.
Direct-to-consumer,
marketing,
yeah. It was, direct-to-consumer. It turns out it's really interesting because right now in, the year we're in, everybody's talking about owning their customers, right? As Amazon has been eating everybody's margins more and more and more and more.
What does that mean to own your customers?
Well, that's it. So like, say for example, you sell on Amazon. Amazon owns your customer data, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have it, which means Amazon gets to market to them, but you never get them again. Whereas with me, since I don't sell, and like I own, it's direct to consumer. I own those customers, which means they give me permission to talk to them and come into their homes every day or every other day via email or via my YouTube channel or via Instagram. And so I get to have a relationship with them, and I get to drive their sales. I get to drive their purchases by telling them, hey, I think you would like this. And since they like me and I'm a trusted voice in their lives, because I own that relationship. I didn't give it to Amazon. I didn't give it to Walmart. I didn't give it to Jet.com. I didn't give it to another company.
I love this. So for people out there that are doing some sort of e-commerce business, what you're saying is that when you go on Amazon and you put your product on there, you are relinquishing control over one of the most important pieces, which is your database,
the relationship with your customer.
Yeah.
They own it. And so they have a variety of different ways to sell on Amazon. I just want to be clear, that's not the only way for them to own it. But if you want to be in their warehouses and you want to have them be, and you want to be part
perks,
of
right?
the Prime program, right? Because Prime is a big deal. They own that. You don't get to put marketing material in those boxes, like that type of thing.
So is that harder? I mean, these companies create an easy platform because they want to help you kind of not necessarily cut corners, but get there faster. That's what the platform's there for.
Right.
But there's a price to pay for that. Tell me more about the process of not taking that,
It's harder.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me, how did you do that?
So back in the day, how I did it was just to be helpful. And so that meant that I was going on chat rooms and I was literally answering customer service problems that weren't even my customer service problems. Like, I made this soap and it failed. Why did it fail? Or I tried this and the violet color, it went brown. What happened? Or I put lavender buds in my soap and now it looks like mouse turds. Does that always happen? That is a real life example, right? And so I just went on and answered all these questions and became known as the expert. And then when it came time for me to say, hey, I am the soap queen, I really, truly was the soap queen. Because I'd been doing it at that point for, 10 years, 15 years, because I'd been making soap since I was 14. So I'd been doing it for a long enough time that when I said, you know what, I'm the soap queen. Yep, I'm the soap queen. It felt right and it felt good because I'd been donating and giving my time at that point. And so what happened was when people like you and people trust you, they want to buy from you. Right? Like you buy from, think of all the different types of esoteric things that you buy and why you buy them. We buy from Amazon for convenience now, but when you're going to buy a high-end stereo system, I don't know they're going to go to Amazon. I think you're going to go in and try and talk to someone, right? Try and talk to a trusted advisor. When we buy wine, we try and, if we're going to buy an expensive bottle, we want to go to an expert. We want to go to someone we trust, the authority.
A shout out to the lady at Hagen, the sommelier that helped me out to pick out this bottle. I didn't, just as a disclaimer, I didn't know that Pinot Noir and
French red Burgundy.
Yeah, Burgundy were the same. So,
but it's delicious.
Yeah, thanks to her.
Yeah, it's delicious. So, but again, trusted authority. So you felt good about coming and saying, "Hey, Here's this, I know you love red French burgundies. This is from a trusted authority. And so that's what I did to build my business early on. And early on, it was me. Then all of a sudden it was 2 people. Then it was 5. Then it was 15. And now we're up to 100 employees. And it's been slowly bootstrapping it every single step of the way and using whatever digital tools now we can get our hands on to try and reach customers or potential customers where they're at, be helpful, and try and show them how creativity can really enhance their lives and then hopefully have something for them.
That's amazing. So you led with service, and that's something that really resonates with me a lot. You started by leading with service. You weren't even focused on money at that point. Obviously, you need to make money to live, but you're starting with service. You're starting by answering those questions, becoming the expert, building that relationship. Tell me more about this whole idea of authenticity, because before I even knew you, I looked at social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of this, and I felt like I was sitting in the kitchen watching you make soap. And I felt like I was right there. I felt really comfortable. So how have you done that, on a one-to-one basis, and how have you utilized social media to do that? Because you've created something really amazing through your social media channels to teach. Right?
Well, thank you for saying that, because it's always been this really internal discussion at Brambleberry. Like when we launched our YouTube channel, and I think that was like 13 years ago now, and we have over 100 videos and 22 million views, and it's been it's been a boon for the soap making community, but not necessarily a moneymaker, right? And because you watch a video and then I teach you how to make soap, but you don't have to use my products. You don't have to use Brambleberry coconut oil to make the soap you just watched me make on YouTube, right?
But it sounds really nice.
It's great.
I should probably use that if I'm going to make it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. And then getting up until a couple years ago, there was no linking from YouTube to your actual e-commerce site either. So getting someone to watch a video and then go to your website and buy the stuff, that sales cycle process was amorphous. It didn't make any sense. And even now, if you look at the direct click-throughs from YouTube to brambleberry.com to buy something, it doesn't even justify like 15 minutes of studio time. Like honestly, it doesn't. There's no clear direct correlation. And so one of the discussions we always had at Brambleberry was, okay, there's no ROI. There's no ROI. And I just kept saying, but it's the right thing to do and it feels good in the sense that like having a relationship with our customers is a privilege. And this is how we have that relationship.
So you thought of it as a privilege?
Yes.
So what you're talking about, if we use the same acronym, would be more like return on impact.
Sure, because like your time is so valuable, especially if you're our average customer, 97% of them are women. It's very, very, very female-centric business. And so many of them are mothers and so many of them are working mothers. So to get someone's undivided time for 12 minutes is a gift. Like, oh my goodness, thank you. Like that is so valuable. And so that's one example of this whole concept of, well, you're giving, you're teaching, and how does that translate to money? Honestly, we don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's not clear. When we talk to our customers anecdotally, they say, "Oh, I found you on YouTube." Or when I go to soap making conventions, because there are soap making conventions, there'll be lines of people that want to take photos of me because they learned how to make soap from me on YouTube. But again, you cannot see that transactional relationship at all when you are looking.
With your videos, how did you do that? Talk about like how did you create, obviously you're just going up there and being yourself, and it's not like some magic equation, but you're just yourself, and you're just leading with service. But that's a lot of time. We're in a society where I feel like 30 seconds, like I'm just like I'm off. I'm thinking of something else. What is it about the content that you're creating, besides just teaching, that you feel like is really that really resonates with that demographic?
Well, I think creativity is essential, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. It doesn't matter how you're creative, and everyone is creative. And so I think that soap making and that alchemy and that mix of art and science is one way to be creative, but there's so many different ways to be creative. And I think that one of the reasons we get people to stop for 12 minutes to watch this is soap making is a science. It's hard. It's actually hard. You can mess it up. So people that actually want to learn how to make soap or make candles, right? That's our next videos that are coming out, our candle making videos. They're going to stop and watch a video because they don't want to mess up their supplies, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that people ultimately watch because people are yearning to create things that are meaningful and things that matter. And when you create a candle that you give to a teacher, that feels so good for them because you made it yourself, you made it with love. Or when you create something for your daughter that has eczema and she has tried everything on the planet and 6 weeks later, she's not itching like crazy anymore, there is no greater gift you can give your family. And so I think that's what we tap into. We tap into that desire to give, to gift, and to create. And all of those things create meaning and create value in people's lives. That's
amazing. And it's funny because I just want to let you know that I do use soap every day. I know it may not seem like it, but I never really thought about it. It's one of those things that I didn't really realize the impact that just things like socks or soap or whatever it may be, these bare essentials that we kind of overlook on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
So you created this product because or these products or this company, this platform for people of all walks of life to feel good and feel like themselves throughout the day. Is that also part of it?
Absolutely. And for them to have something that they can make with their family, something they can make with their friends, something they can do at night to relax and de-stress. Like that's what I was doing when I was a correctional officer. I was making soap every night to de-stress. And then it was like, oh, there's something here. Okay, what can I do with this? Where can I go with this? And so now I've written 3 books on soap making.
I looked through all your catalog, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, I haven't ordered it because now I know not to order them off Amazon.
Because we don't have them on Amazon.
Really?
Oh, we have the books on Amazon.
The books on Amazon.
Yeah,
okay.
That's because the books were actually published through a traditional publisher. Story Publishing came to me and said, "Hey, soap making expert, you're the soap queen. We'd like you to write a book."
Yeah.
And so each book takes about 2 years to do. And every time I get done with one, I'm always like, I'm never writing another book again. And then a year later, I forget about that. And they come to me again and say, "Hey, let's write another book." And I'm like, okay.
So what does that take every day as an author? Because you've written multiple books.
Yes, yeah. So I've written 4 books, 3 on soap making and 1 on how to live your best day ever every day, which is all about kind of lifestyle strategies for how to create a habit-based life so that you, build a life you don't need a vacation from.
And you're also not just the soap queen, but you're the habit queen because, right. And we talked about this earlier. You said, I'll be there at 2:45. I work in increments of 15 minutes. And I said, whoa, okay. So tell me about time blocking in your life.
So time blocking is super essential for me. I outsource my time blocking in the sense that I have an assistant who runs my calendar because I say yes to everything all the time. I love to do cool, awesome things. And so if you're like, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" I'll be like, "Yes, I do want to do a podcast." And then someone says, "Hey, can you do this?" I'll be like, "I could probably shorten up that podcast and then fit that into." My assistant will, she stops me from doing all that. So she's really...
Or do you want to do a podcast with wine? And you're like, okay, I'll move that other podcast aside because there's wine there and it's from Burgundy, France. Yeah.
That is actually what happened. Yes.
There was a couple other podcasts on there.
Yeah. So yes, I do time block really, really essentially and efficiently because otherwise, left to my own devices, I will go down the rabbit hole of reading every single thing that anybody sends me on whatever news. Like my dad just sent me this amazing article about how the 2008 Olympic or 2018 Olympics were hacked, and there was by a foreign actor and not foreign actor, a foreign nation state, and how the entire world is vulnerable to this. And okay,
it's super interesting.
I want to read it, but guess what? I don't have time because that time block of 15 minutes needs to be spent reviewing this contract for an e-commerce thing that we're this is an actual example from today. This e-commerce contract that's a $48,000 contract. It deserves my time, my undivided time.
But the question is, was it the Russians?
I haven't finished the article.
Oh, darn it. Okay.
I know.
So we don't know. It's a cliffhanger right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in Wired magazine, though, for anybody that wants to read it.
Go out and read it. I think it was the Russians.
It probably
Not
was.
pointing fingers, but I think it was the Russians. Yeah. So you have this way of doing this because it sounds like, and I think we're very similar in this way. Someone comes to me with something that sounds like an amazing experience, how we met was I'd never been to a political fundraiser in my entire life. And a friend of ours, Ziad Youssef, who was on our last episode, said, "Hey, I think there's something you need to go in my place for. I can't make it." And I show up, and I think I walked in there and I said, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Leo." And he said, "Hey, I'm Anne Marie." And you're like, "This is my house. What are you doing here? Why are you here?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then we kind of just hit it off from there.
We hit it off, yeah.
But
that's because you said yes. You said yes.
So it's important to say yes.
Right. It's important to say yes so you get all these new experiences and so you try things you wouldn't otherwise try. So you're exposed to things you wouldn't be exposed to. But then the dark side of that is then you end up overcommitting yourself. You end up saying no to yourself or your self-care, or you say no to the things that are actually important and valuable to you when it comes right down to a values base, right? What do you want every single day to feel successful? And when we say yes to all these really cool, fun things, we might be saying yes to a new experience, but did we say no to exercising? Did we say no to enough sleep? Did we say no to spending that 5 minutes of time in the morning with your spouse or that 20 minutes of time at night that the Gottman studies say are key and essential for having a really good relationship? Like what's the trade-off? What do we say no to in order to say yes to this other cool thing?
So have you always been this way, or did you hit a certain point in your life where you decided that you had to start time blocking? Otherwise, with your personality and the way that you like to have these new experiences, if you didn't start blocking your time out, you're going to start saying yes to things that don't keep you on track with what's important to you.
That don't really fill me with that really are fun in the moment, but don't get me to my goals. And so I was a kid in high school that literally, I mean, we were talking in 95 people, 95. I had a Franklin Covey planner, like the big ones.
Nice.
So I was that kid. So I was always really pretty religious about my time and blocking my time. And I think partially that's because my dad's a doctor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she was a nurse before that. And so I watched him have to prioritize his time because he served as, he did a lot of nonprofit work. He did some political work. And then he was constantly running. He always had a side hustle too. He always had a side business.
It sounds like you really look up to your parents.
Both of them, so much, yeah.
Tell me more about, your childhood looking up to your parents. Like, it's not, your dad was a doctor.
He's still a doctor. He is 70 years old, and he is a practicing family practice physician still.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so he had a side hustle, and this is something that you said that you do too.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of influence did your dad and your mom have on your success and your growth as a human?
Well, my mom was my biggest salesperson as a soap thing. So when I was like 14 and I was selling soap, she was selling soap to all of her friends for me. So she was very into supporting me that way. And when I was like, you guys, I would like to be paid for my cooking. They were my first clients to pay me $50 to cook on Saturday for cooking Sabbath meals because they're Seventh-day Adventist, and Seventh-day Adventists typically don't do a lot of work on the Sabbath, and that includes a lot of food prep. And my dad really taught me the ability of just deep focus in relationships. He had a few relationships that he was very close with and very just deeply entrenched with, and then didn't do a lot of the extraneous sort of small talk relationships. He was really big and just getting right down into the meat of it. And so he really taught me the importance of community and really actually having people around you that you respect and admire, people you trade lives with, because you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
You say that a lot. I hear you. I've heard you say that a lot when you talk about who, I want to spend time with people that I would trade lives with.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, water seeks its own level. We always go to the lowest common denominator. So if we're hanging out with people that would rather sit on the couch on a Sunday and watch Netflix and not go work out and not go, meal prep for the week and that type of thing, you're going to be much more likely to sit on the couch and do Netflix rather than go work out and go meal prep. When we know what you need in order to meet your goals is a really good physical fitness base and a really good energy base, right? You've got massive goals for how you want to collaborate with other realtors in this community, how you want to do brokerage, how you really want to build out your team, right? You have big goals. And the only way to do that is for you to have the best health possible. So if you're hanging out with someone that's like, no, just sleep in an extra 2 hours, or no, let's stay out late and drink tonight, you're not going to have the habits and the routine and the energy to go do all the things you need to do. So that's one example of hang out with people that are doing what you want to do with your life, because that's going to slingshot you. That's going to inspire you. That's going to give you the next ladder rung to make your goals happen. And so the people I get to hang out with, the people I'm so lucky to hang out with, they're always doing cooler things than me. They're always more successful than me. And they're always leading lives of distinction that make me go, oh my God, I want to be you when I grow up.
That's huge.
I'm so lucky I get to hang out with them. So lucky.
So what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh gosh, when I grew up, I want to be in the FBI. That was my big thing. Mm-hmm. And then when I quit my job to sell soap, my parents were pretty dang horrified, but very, very, very supportive. My dad
Sounds really familiar.
Yeah, my parents helped me, paint my warehouses, and I moved 5 times in the first 4 years because Brambleberry was on such a growth tear in the first decade. And they always helped me move, and they were really supportive. I asked my dad for a $5,000 loan for my first Christmas sales, and
did he give it to you?
No.
Oh.
He said no. I offered him 1/3 of the company for $5,000.
Oh. And how does he feel about that now?
He actually is really he's very proud of himself for not doing it. Because A, of course, it forced me to figure it out myself. But B, he always said, he wasn't ever going to collect on it, and 1/3 of the company was, too much anyways. So he's proud of himself for saying no.
Yeah, and what did that teach you in that moment?
Interestingly enough, so my parents, they were really helpful throughout kind of a little bit of college, but they cut me off completely financially when I was 18. And so all it did was just remind me that I am on my own and I am alone. And you know what? There's no one's gonna take care of it. It's me. It is me. I can depend on myself, and there we go. And that's not a cynical thing. It's just literally hey, if you want it, you go get it. That is all up to you. I'm not holding your hand through this. Mm-mm.
So you have 2 options in those moments, and for maybe the people that are in those moments where they've maybe been cut off in some sort of way, or they don't have any other options, you really have 2 options, and it's a very binary.
Right.
Here you go. So you either have the option to just go and don't look back. Mm-hmm. I mean, learn from your mistakes and grow and whatnot, but don't look back, right? Or what's the other option? You just sit there and you let it consume you, right?
Right. You sit there and you let it consume you. You worry about it. You feel like a victim. You complain to people. None of that is useful, right? The end result is the end result. What are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you've had that experience before.
Well, I never finished college. My mom freaked out. My mom was I call her the bookworm, because I am street smart, and when I apply myself to specific topics, I knock them out of the park, but I really didn't apply myself to a lot of things that I just didn't care about. So I'm very biased and lopsided, and I'm just one way, or I'm very one-track minded when it comes to that. So she wasn't used to that. I dropped out of school, and then...
and you probably feel extra much like you need to prove yourself now then still?
No, I actually, I felt, at that moment, I felt complete freedom when I dropped out of school, because I actually got invited to speak at Western in a real estate class, and that was when I was way not even close to where I was at this point. But anyways.
And you're like, okay,
yeah.
I dropped out of school, and look at me now. I'm teaching at Western.
Yeah, well, and that was Cooper, who was our media guy. He this is before he really had started up with us, and he said, I've got a real estate class, and it was 2, big hitter real estate people in our...
Are you downplaying it right now?
I'm downplaying it because it's meant to be downplayed. The whole point is that, yeah, we had a similar situation where it was you can either decide to finish school, figure out what you want to do, or do that, and move forward. And I wake up early because I've just got this ticking clock in my head that says, all right, it's time to get up.
Right.
Sounds like you have that too.
Oh yeah, I wake up every day at the same exact time, 6:22, no matter what.
6:22.
Don't ask me why.
Is that? But that's not within your 15-minute increment. So
right,
that's
I know.
in a 2-minute increment.
Yeah. So
is there a different time block?
Honestly, I live on the south side. I bet if someone actually checks railway tracks, I bet there is a stupid train that goes by at 6:20 or something.
So south side, like the Hood south side, or Bellingham south side. Okay, never mind.
I bet there's a train that goes by, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So no, I wake up at the same time every morning, and my big problem is I always want to stay up too late, right? Because there's always another article to read, and always another email to send, always another book to read, always another. So it's
the Russians. You don't have to stay up late tonight because it's the Russians.
It's the Russians.
And I swear it's the Russians. Yeah. So you get up. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about, what I'm really interested in, one of the biggest things that I see with most successful people is the ability to fail forward really fast and learn. And it sounds like you really set aside your ego to fail and understand that you're going to fail and understand that you're going to grow and it's going to get really uncomfortable. Can you give me an example of a time, what is your biggest failure that you've ever had?
Oh, I'm right in the middle of it right now.
Tell me about it.
Super great.
Let's dive into it.
Total lie. It's not great. Brambleberry, it's so exciting and so cool. We have been growing at this really great clip, and we ship out 1,000 boxes a day to people nationwide that want to learn how to make soap, bath fizzies, lotions, lip balms, You name it. If you can put it on your body or rinse it off, I sell you all the ingredients. And then, of course, I teach you how to make it, right? The blog, soapqueen.blog, or the In the Studio at Brambleberry.com, or YouTube channels. So we've been growing at a really good rate. And because this reciprocity thing has worked, even though we can't prove the direct ROI. So 2 years ago, we hit the documented limits of where our shopping cart could go, in the sense that we were processing more art orders than the shopping cart could handle.
How do you track that metric?
Well, because literally we were starting to have outages, and the website would be going down, and so we were all on, like, literally we signed up for a monitoring service. We, meaning the management team and I, and one of us would get pinged at 2 a.m, and someone would have to go restart a server, right? Like,
wow.
It was not great. And so we went and we were like, okay, you know what? I want to build $100 million company. I want to build an empire. So what platform do I need right now to build an empire? Because I don't want to go through another platform change. Mm-hmm. So we picked a platform that was kind of like going from like a 1964 Ford that I could sort of fix on my own to like literally buying a Tesla. And then I spent this huge amount of money to do a new Brambleberry.com, right? New user experience, new, better, like, they're called lockers, but like data storage lockers for people so they can save recipes, new photography for the website, all this stuff. And we launched in February of this year with this brand new website. And Google freaking hated the website. They hated it. And so they dropped all of our search engine rankings like overnight. So like overnight, my sales dropped like 42% in February of this year.
Sorry.
Yeah. So imagine you have 100 employees.
Yeah.
And you just launched a new website that you spent much of your savings to develop, and then your sales drop because Google hates your new website.
If you don't mind me asking, what does it cost to make a beautiful Brambleberry website?
Well, I will tell you, the one 8 years ago cost $48,000, and the new one was over $1 million.
Okay, that is amazing. And by the way, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous, right?
I kid you not. You can walk around our office and someone's scrolling through, Instagram or on the website on Brambleberry and going, "Wow, I've never been so magnetized to soap in my life." So it's worth it. It will be worth it, right?
It will be worth it. So so in terms of failures, so like here my team has worked so hard. We have been knocking ourselves out to build this website instead of doing all the big expansion of stuff we'd like to do, right? Like, when you're building a website, you're head down in all this details and you're not really thinking big picture. You're not figuring out what next trade conferences to go to. You're not saying, hey, Anne-Marie, wouldn't it be great if you keynote at this? Let's figure out how to keynote you at that, right? Like, you are literally down here. So we've spent this whole year working on it, and we get it up, and sales go, and customers are like, I can't log into my website. I can't log into the website. I'm going elsewhere. So like that was February. So then we did a little bit better the next month, and we were only 19% down in sales, but 19% down is still a lot.
Yeah.
And then we were down again the next month and the next month. And so I've spent this whole year figuring out with the team. It's not just me. I have a team of people that are incredible and are so committed to this. Didn't lose one single team member through this.
That's huge.
And huge. It's hard to go to work every day and not feel successful. It is so hard to go to work and say, hey, how are the sales? How are the Google click-throughs? Oh, and you are working so hard and you can't do anything about it, right? So this year's been a huge growth curve in terms of just leadership, how to lead a team through really tough times, cash management, right? Because you don't lose that much in sales and all of a sudden have magical cash issues or magical cash flow goodness. You have magical cash flow badness, right? So I'd say I'm going through the failure. I'm like, this will be the worst failure I've had yet to date.
How does that feel?
I'm embarrassed. It feels crappy. I hired the wrong people to execute on some of the kind of more technical aspects of the website, and I was clearly not paying enough attention. Right, like I should have been more in the weeds. So I feel like it all rests on mostly my shoulders. I had multiple people at work offer to resign over it. And like take responsibility themselves and say, I'm sorry, this is I should have caught this on me. Of course, it's not their fault, and they're amazing team members, and I would never take their resignation over this. But so the failure feels personal. It doesn't feel great, but that's where the habit-based lifestyle comes back into play, right? If you're getting up every day at 6:22, you're having your cup of green tea, you're meditating for 10 minutes, you're reading your business book for 20 minutes, and then you're either going straight to work or dropping your kids off at school, or depending on the day, you're getting your workout in first thing. that sets you up right there. Those habits set you right up for the right mindset right away. And so that's where having that habit-based lifestyle saves me. And I think it would probably save most people from hitting those really low doldrums, assuming you have normal kind of psychological profiles, right? It'll save you from hitting those real lows. Because if you're meditating every day and you're working out every day and you're drinking your 1 cup of antioxidant-rich coffee and you're eating mostly fruits and vegetables and a little bit of healthy protein and you're not having a lot of sugar and you're hanging out with people that are uplifting you, that are saying, hey, you know what, it's okay, it's going to get better. Well, what's the one thing you could do right now? It's the swings are so much less.
So it's not that there aren't swings. It's just you minimize these swings by creating habits that and people and surrounding yourself in the right environment that allow you to see if the next 6 months are going to be tough. It's just here's 1 step a day. Here's 1 step a week to get to beyond that 6 months. Let's dive into what does your daily routine look like?
Ooh, my daily routine.
So 6:22.
Yeah. So you get up around my daily routines. It's interesting. There's a former one of my dreams is to teach a class at Western. I have been a guest lecturer, but they've never invited me to teach a class. Western, if you're listening, just saying.
We know people.
Do you?
Yeah, Cooper and I are both alumni. Well, actually, Cooper's an alumni, but I didn't finish. But
I was going to say, didn't you just tell me?
But I went there. Does that still count as an alumni?
Totally counts.
Yeah.
Just get me in. Figure it out.
Oh, I know.
Something.
Oh, we'll get you in.
People.
Yeah, we know people.
I did some guest speaking for somebody's class up there, and he sat me down, and this was like 7 years ago, and he said, Anne Marie, you're a robot. You're a robot. I wouldn't want your life, because I have the same kind of routine every day, right? I get up, have my green tea, do my meditation, read my 20 minutes in a business book to try and center myself.
But you're happy.
Really happy. I
so
love it.
So who cares what that person said?
I know, but it felt bad when he said it. Right? It felt like criticism. And I don't know if you have this problem. I definitely do. I want to be liked. That's what makes it hard to employ people. And that's what makes it hard to do stuff politically too, because it puts yourself up for people saying, they don't like you because of your views, or they don't like you because of something you said, or God forbid you fire them. So it's hard for me to have people say that they don't like something about me. That doesn't feel good.
I understand that. I think my mantra that I've really implemented, and maybe this will aid to that, I don't know, but it's one of those things where I decided that I want to be empathetic and I really want to care about people, how people feel, but I want to be me. I know the happiest that I'll be is if I'm me. 100%, even if good and bad flaws, all of the strengths and weaknesses, and just own that, but surround myself with people that are better than me, like you said, and recognize that, and really not take myself too seriously. And at that point, I think that was kind of my turning point, where I just stopped caring about what people think about me. If I feel a certain way, I want to be as caring about how I present it, but not to the point where I ruined my life over it, right?
What are you going to do when this podcast becomes wildly successful and lots of people are reviewing it? Are you going to read the reviews?
Yeah, I'm going to respond to all of them.
And what are you going to say when someone's mean about your voice or your hair or something you said?
What's wrong with my hair? I'm just kidding. I just got a haircut. Take it easy on me. I'm just kidding. But, well, I think that's somebody's opinion, and I think everyone's opinion, whether it's, aligns with yours or not, I think it's their reality, and I think that's something that I respect, is somebody's reality. I don't necessarily agree with everybody's reality or what they think, but I don't know. I guess the answer is I don't really know, but I like to think of it exactly like you think of it, where you're taking it, when you have a challenging time, you take it one step at a time, because truly every day is a new day, right? And you don't know, if somebody leaves a nasty comment on why did you have this person on the show, or why did you say this, that, or the other, I think it's important to respond to good and bad reviews. Mm-hmm. If that makes, and so that kind of leads me to my next question for you, which is, how do you deal with with weird customer inquiries, and what's been your weirdest inquiry through your what?
Oh, you don't want to hear the weirdest inquiry.
I ate my soap and it wasn't
they're always
food?
About sex.
Soap and sex.
Yeah, no, the weirdest inquiries are always about sex.
Tell me about this.
Well, okay.
I'm curious. Why are they about sex and soap?
So like stuff like we sell a pourable silicone, and they're like, we'd like to make a silicone mold of our genitalia and then make soap out of that, right? Or is your glycerin edible because we'd like to make a lube or something like that. So all the weirdest ones or the most kind of outliers are always about sex. But in terms of the criticisms, there's also lots of criticisms that come in, right? Like on my YouTube channel, I don't like what you wore. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like the way you dress. You're such a spazzy Barbie. No one could possibly be that excited, and no one could be that happy. It must be so annoying working with you. Like, these are comments that I get routinely.
And on a big platform. Because you guys have somewhere around 140,000 Instagram followers and probably many more on YouTube.
Right.
You have a lot of views. How do those things make you feel? When you know who you are and the people that know who you are truly as a person, how do those things feel from someone that you don't know?
So they feel bad, and they felt bad 15 years ago. They still feel bad now, right? Because you know what? I'm sort of a spazzy Barbie type. I do talk really fast. I am really excitable. And I like that about myself, and I think that's one of the reasons that people like to work with me too. And on the other hand, every strength can become a weakness when overused. So, And so I don't love them. That's why I was asking you. When you were like, I am who I am. I'm going to be happy no matter what, and I'm going to accept myself no matter what. And I'm like, wonder how much criticism you've gotten. And the unfair criticism, right? Because criticizing me about things I can't change is hard.
Yeah. Well, I think that, again, it's somebody's opinion of yourself, and that's valid to me. It's valid because that's their opinion, but I always want to reach out to that person, and I would always love for that person to say, hey, let's go get coffee or something.
The worst ones are when people criticize Brambleberry or Brambleberry's company practices. Like, I remember when someone posted on Twitter and said, Brambleberry, they saw one of our ads on Craigslist.
What was this ad?
It was just for like a warehouse worker or something. And they were like, Brambleberry, Anne Marie is one of the richest people in town, which not true. But Brambleberry's making so much money, and they're only paying their workers, at the time it was like $1 above minimum wage. And how can they do this? And they call themselves a progressive company. And I offered to go out to coffee with them and all the things, and they never took me up on it, right? Because online trolls are online trolls. But that felt, that was criticism, and that felt icky. And I wanted an opportunity to have a more nuanced dialogue with them and explain to them the concept of business and job creation and that type of thing. But they didn't give me that opportunity.
So, yeah, it's tough. But I think that the way you handled it is exactly how I'd handle it. I don't really... I've started to realize that there's always going to be internet trolls, and people love to be behind this keyboard, and they love to say whatever they're going to say. It's just to get, rile up some sort of interaction with other people. And at the end of the day, there's so many people that care about you, and they want the best for you, and they, you want to work with the people you want to work with. And I haven't had a lot of the same criticism that I think you have because of the level of your megaphone. This is your megaphone is like, if you compare the two businesses, it's such a different...
But what's so exciting is about what you're doing right now, you're going to.
Right.
You're going to have that megaphone, and that's going to be, you know what? Let's go out for another glass of wine, when you get your first person that criticizes your hair or your voice.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll celebrate.
Yeah, we'll celebrate, because if you're big enough to criticize, that's pretty cool.
For me, the biggest criticism has come through my sports career. So when I played soccer at Western and for Bellingham United when they first started out, and just like you're on this. It's not a huge stage. It's maybe 800 to 1,000 people at a game, but it's still a big enough stage where you make one mistake, and have you been in the stands at a sports game where people are like, they're just drinking their like sixth beer, and there's someone out there that's incredibly talented. I'm not talking about myself, but like on a professional level, like a real professional level, and I'll be in the stands, and they're like, so and so should have done a better job on that, and you're like, you have no idea how much effort and time they put into that, and there's that type of stuff happens.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess the answer is I don't know how I'm going to deal with that, but I want to deal with that in the best way, and that's selfishly why I had you on the podcast, because I want to learn about how you deal with it.
Right. Well, doing the podcast is so great because you're giving back to the community, but then you also get an hour or two with people that you're like, hey, I kind of want to know all about you, and then you have a reason to do it.
Exactly. So you're going through one of the toughest times that you've one of your biggest challenges that you've had since
professionally, for sure.
Professionally. What's next for you? What are you most passionate about? What do you want to do next? What is the next step for the company? And
well, one of the things I'm really good at is reframing. So what that means is, this has been a really challenging year, right? Like I just spent most of my savings last year and then sales are down and wow, it's hard to keep morale and it's hard to keep my team happy. And then I'm adjusting to being a single mom now and all of and my mom has breast cancer and it's like all this stuff. And so going through that and saying, okay, here we go. You know why? I had a really bad year this year financially? It was to save me because otherwise, all these private equity firms that have been circling my company for years and years and years that have wanted to buy me, maybe one of them would have given me an actual offer this year that I wouldn't have been able to refuse finally. And instead, I had a bad year and that doesn't feel good, but it's going to bring my team together really close. And guess what? It saved me from selling to one of these private equity firms. So now I'm going to have this company still that's built to last, that has 100+ employees that maybe I can pass on to my kids when I get older, right? So that's kind of an example of how I reframe all the things all the time, right?
So you're taking something that could easily go down a dark road. Mm-hmm. You could easily say, well, this happened and this happened and this happened and so on and so forth. But you're reframing it in a way that like you're, even if it's 1%, even if it's the environment that you put yourself in. So if you take this here, even if it's something one thing that you could have done better, you look at that one thing, you analyze it, because that's really all you have control over, right?
Right.
So that's really powerful, focusing on what you can control.
Right, focusing on what you can control and the story you tell yourself, right? Because the story I can tell myself is, oh my God, I suck as a CEO. A good CEO wouldn't have let this happen. I don't deserve to be doing this. I need to find another CEO. And instead, all I've done is that's one message I could tell myself. And it's a perfectly legitimate, you could go with that answer. But instead, I'm going with oh my gosh, this is such a great opportunity to really just bond with my team and come in every single day and work harder than ever. Make sure that I'm staying up until midnight so they see how hard I'm working. Make sure that I'm providing the leadership that they all need. And make sure that I am really intrinsically involved in all this day-to-day stuff so we can get this ship righted. And oh my goodness, how lucky am I that I then was able to kind of not be purchased by any private equity companies. Because right now, I don't know if you've heard, private equity has stupid money and they're giving stupid valuations right now for companies. Mm-hmm. So the money that was being dangled in front of me last year, I didn't take, but it was pretty tempting. This year would have been really hard to not take. And instead, I tanked my company. And in doing so, probably saved myself another 20 years of this great career that I love.
Pause. Sorry. Let's get another. Oh, Bob's starting his car up. Well, let's have another. Do you want some more wine? We talked a little bit about, and this is not to talk about real estate, but something that I think is something that I've admired about what you've done, and we talked about this when we got together for lunch, which was you bought a building.
Right. Yeah. Diversification of income streams. It's a thing.
Okay. So for people that are starting a business, a lot of people are looking at probably leasing space. What has that done for your business to own the space and have that leverage of the other units and have that other income really help?
So first of all, I'm a big believer in controlling your own destiny, period, no ifs, ands, or buts. And so actually I own the Brambleberry Fulfillment Center as well. And I purchased that when I was either 26 or 27 with the help of a small business loan.
And that's Sunnyland?
That's Sunnyland neighborhood, yep. And that's a 25,000 square foot building. And it's so funny when you walk through it, I call it the Hobbit warehouse because it's grown and grown and grown so much, but I own the building, so we are in it,
yeah.
Right? So it is, it's like a maze of corridors and it's not set up or optimized for a warehouse the way I would do it now, but my team certainly makes the best of it. But I bought my warehouse back then because I wanted to control my destiny. I did not want a landlord that would be able to kick me out, be able to raise my rents, or for example, in one of the previous spaces, the one that made me buy my own building, there had been a sewer pipeline that broke or something like that, and they had to dig through concrete in the middle of that. Right? Tons of business interruption that I wasn't compensated for, and I couldn't plan around because it was that building's owner's thing. And then when we had a groundwater incident, rained really hard and groundwater came up through their open holes and flooded my whole building and all of the things. And we lost $5,000 worth of inventory, which at the time was more like probably, $75,000, $100,000 for me today in terms of the sheer dollar volume. They didn't want to pay for it. They didn't want to take responsibility for it. And so that was my big, like, I want to control my destiny. I will be owning my own building. And so I bought my first building when I was 26 or 27. And then I just purchased a building for Brambleberry sale and marketing team, because fulfillment center is all about optimization. It is all about getting the maximum number of boxes out the door.
Right.
There is nothing slow and romantic and luxurious and creative about that. This is the way you pack a box.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way it gets to a customer safely. This is how many items you have to pack in a box. This is how many items you have to pull an hour. Again, very just keep those trains running on time. Being creative is all about space. It's all about beauty. It's all about, again, just this luxury of freedom of time. So I purchased a building specifically so my sales and marketing team could be in it. But of course, I don't need the whole building. And so I do have tenants, and it's at a break-even situation / maybe lose a little bit right now. But I think in 5 or 10 years or 10 or 20 years, again, this is a built-to-last company, and I want it. And since I just managed to, again, tank my own company this year, I will be keeping this business for quite some time. So in 10 to 20 years, hopefully that building will pay off financially, and I will have divestiture of my income streams and different income streams coming in.
It always does. Being in the business, well, not always, but most of the time, real estate is a great investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like one of the things I really was excited about when we talked about your purchasing of that building, which was a couple of years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a little bit of tenacity in how you purchased that. Tell me a little bit more about that story.
Well,
Yeah.
So I'd known I wanted to buy a building, and I known I wanted creative and marketing someplace else. And so I had been looking at all the buildings in downtown. And so I knew in my head kind of what everything was sort of worth at that point. And I'd been looking at the price per square foot. And so I saw this building, or this space, this 1,200 square foot space or 2,200 square foot space for rent on Craigslist. And I walked in and I said, hi, blah, blah, blah. And it turned out this was the building's owner. And I looked at him and I'm like, well, have you ever thought about selling the building? He's like, no, it's fully leased out. There's no reason to sell it. And I said, well, I do need a space, but I have a lot of ideas on what I want to do with the space. So I will lease this space for 6 months from you. And I will start doing everything I can do to the space to get it ready for me to move into. But if you and I don't have a purchase and sale agreement for me to buy this building at the end of 6 months, I will leave. And he said, I have no intention of selling the building. I said, okay, well, that's fine.
What does that mean to you when someone says, I don't feel it. I don't know if I'm going to sell. It sounds like in that moment, you were like, that means no right now, but that is not no
Oh,
forever.
yeah, every no leads you closer to a yes. Yeah, like, okay, he doesn't want to sell right now, but he's going to go. And also, people don't like new ideas. Who likes a new idea? No one likes a new idea. Everybody likes where they're comfortable, right? Like, that's the reason so many people stay in places of discomfort in their personal lives, even if it's not serving them, because discomfort sometimes is so much more comfortable than actually having to make the change. No one likes change.
Interesting. So it's obviously it's always harder to do the right thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Right, but that's why people stay in bad relationships, right? Because that discomfort feels actually comfortable for them. That discomfort feels normal to them, and making the change is harder and scarier, and it's the unknown. And so no one likes new ideas. So I knew he wouldn't like the idea right away. Plus, it was fully rented. Why would he like it?
He's cash flowing it. He's in a good place. There's no reason for him to change what's not broken, right?
And so then I went back the next month, and I said, hey, here's how things are going. How are you doing? You thought about selling the business? No, or the building? No, I'm not going to sell. Month 3 goes by. Hey, same thing. What are you thinking? And then he sent me a text message, and he says, hey, you know what? I'll get the building appraised. And if the building appraises for what I would sell it for, then I'll sell it to you. And I said, great, get the building appraised. It's going to appraise for this. And because I'd been looking at all this stuff, and so I knew exactly what I thought it was going to appraise for, and I just flat out told him what I thought it was going to appraise for. So then he comes to me and he says, and this is a 45-minute meeting over like green smoothies, wheatgrass. And he says, here's the appraisal. He kind of puts it on the here, but it appraised for lower than I would want to sell it for. I think it's worth more.
And how did you know, did you have any real estate background, any sort of, you had purchased a home at that point?
Purchased a few.
Purchased a few homes at that point. So you had some real estate knowledge, but more so from a business perspective, how did you evaluate that? How did you say, oh, this is worth 1.6 versus 1.8 versus 2.5?
Well, so I had looked for 2 years for a building downtown. So I knew exactly what the price per square foot was going in all these different streets. And then I kind of knew where my street was and kind of what the little small haircut you'd want to take for being on that street versus being on the main street, right? Mm-hmm. And also the building makeup and what it was, did it need repairs, that type of thing. So I just kind of had it in my head what I thought the building was worth. And so I said, well, this is what it's going to appraise for. So he sat me down. He says, this is what it appraised for. And I want more. Now, of course, as a realtor that that's a problem. If it appraises for something and he wants more, I have to come up with that difference because a bank isn't going to loan me 80% of his value. It's going to loan me 80% of appraisal value.
Correct.
So I said, okay, what do you want? And he named his price, and I said, okay. Because I knew it was right within it was 5% more than I was in my head willing to pay. 5%. 5% to own my own destiny and to control that future.
So you made a decision, and this is really interesting, kind of dissecting your brain if we're going to get really, scientific on this. But I'm very interested in that moment where a lot of people, I feel, in moments like that, decide to cut their costs, and you being a very analytical person in that moment said, no, the 5% is going to pay itself back.
It's going to pay itself back.
Was that from experience, or was that from just your general, genetic makeup, your nature versus your nurture? How did you make that decision in that moment?
First of all, like you, I believe real estate is generally always a good thing, right? And especially in Whatcom County. We're growing. We're a climate refuge. We are we're always named one of the top 10 places to live. This place is amazing. Real estate values haven't gone down. And yeah, the economic harbingers are not real good right now from a nationwide standpoint. And I also look at what happened during the last recession for Bellingham. Not a whole lot happened to our housing prices. They sort of went down a little bit. They stabled out. The inventory went up, but not a lot happened. They're not making more commercial real estate downtown, right? Where are you going to build? You're not, right? And so I looked at that and went, that's a bet I'm willing to take. 5%, I'll make that up in a couple of years. It's okay. And so I said, okay. And so we drew up a 2-page Word document. It was literally 1 page and 1 paragraph. We walked over to Whatcom Land Title. We said that we'd like to open up and this is a big building purchase. And I said, we'd like to open up a file, and we want you to close, and we want you to close in 22 days. And they went, well, huh? What? I said, yeah.
And just for the record, your typical purchase and sale agreement with, the standard addenda is, probably 15, 20, sometimes even more pages than that.
Most of mine are always longer. Yeah.
Contingency. But so you went there with a
1.5.
I don't want to call it a napkin agreement, but it's
literally
kind of a napkin agreement. Did you write this up, or did you have a lawyer write this up?
No, he wrote it up. The seller wrote it up, and I looked at it and I was like, all right, that's fine. And
so you went down to Whatcom Land Title, and typically on a larger purchase, typically a standard single family purchase, you're buying a home, you could probably do it, and I've seen them happen in as little as 10 days if you have a cash offer, but typically with lending,
right,
you need 30 or 40 days.
And I was doing a credit rate swap deal too, so that's a really sophisticated financial instrument, because I was betting rates were actually going to go up. Turns out, by the way, that was the wrong bet. Thank Trump economy.
Yeah.
Right. And so Umpqua got it closed for me in 22 days, and that was that. And then me and the former owner, he walked me through the building. He gave me the keys, and we've texted maybe once or twice since. And that was that. He gave me some Glassy Babies as a thank you for closing.
He gave you some what?
Glassy Babies. It's this really cool, awesome, candle holders that are $45. So they're but they're hand blown glass, and they're out of Seattle. Lee Rhodes started it when she had cancer and was looking at the beautiful candles by her bedside and was or in her bathtub and was this is giving me such joy. If I get through cancer, I want to give other people joy like this. So she started this company. So Glassy Babies are a thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and he got me all the Glassy Babies in the Brambleberry colors, and that was that. And
That's
so
amazing.
now I own the building, and now I get to be a tenant or a tenant and a landlord. So because we have 6 or 7 commercial tenants in there.
So there's a pro and a con to it, and I would say the con is not as bad as it's only as bad as we allow it to be. So the pro being that you're in control of your own destiny. The con being that you're I'm in control of my own destiny. If this thing tanks, if the economy tanks, if the whatever, I own this building.
Right, and it's a big mortgage.
It's a big mortgage.
So how do you sleep?
How do you sleep? Well, you get up at 6:22, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't sleep long.
Yeah, don't sleep long. So that puts even, basically what it sounds like you're doing is that this accountability structure that you've created around your business and around your life, it just doesn't give you another option. And when you don't have another option, when you burn the boats,
Right. I love that phrase.
Tony Robbins, when you burn the boats, you'll take the island, right? So it sounds like you burned all your boats.
Yeah, no, burn all the ships for sure.
Yeah.
There is no option but to succeed. No, I'm not stupid in the sense that like I'm not ignorant of the potentials, and so I certainly have fallback plans on like, okay, if this went south, I could sell this. If this went south, I could do this, or this is how much cash on hand I need, and that kind of stuff. I always have contingency plans, but I, knock on wood, I don't plan to use them.
So would you say you're a realist or an optimist? Because I know you're not a pessimist.
I call myself a delusional optimist because
Delusional
optimist.
What does that mean?
Well, I think that in order to start a business and to say, you know what, I can do this and I can be responsible for myself and all these other families, I think you have to have a certain amount of like glasses, not only half full, but it's basically always full all the time. And yes, I can do this, and you can do this, and we can do this together, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be fine. And I know this looks insurmountable right now, but it's okay. Here's the promised land, and here's the finish line, and here's how we're going to get here. Let's do it together. That takes more than just optimism. A lot of times that does take putting on the blinders, right? That takes me going, wow, we're down 42% in February. You know what? It's going to be fine. Here we're blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of going, we're down 42%. Oh my God, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to ask for a loan. I'm going to lay this people up, blah, blah. I haven't laid anybody off. I will not be.
You should be proud of that. That's amazing.
Right. Like,
yeah.
It just made the decision that we are going to get through this. We're going to come through it. I will be able to solve this. My team will be able to solve this, and we're going to do it together.
So tell me a little bit more about the core of your company. You talk a lot about together, which I can tell. You know, you had your mission, vision, values on the wall when I came to your office. It's so important to have that because you know you can't do this alone.
No, and I don't want to do it alone.
Yeah, and so first of all, what are your mission, vision, values? What's your core? And how do you continue to present that and to give that to people and remind people of that work for your company, to remind them of the mission?
Well, so at our heart, we are all about creativity, right? Our mission for Brambleberry is that we believe people are creative. We believe that creativity helps you lead a life of love. And we believe that we are the best people to help you do that. And so that is kind of our, like, how we want people to look at us in the marketplace and why we do what we do every single day. And then internally, we have a kind of a set of values of how we treat each other, right? We pause for compassion. We make sure that we are adventurous, meaning, what's your idea? We do want to hear it. We are going to try for new things. And then we try really hard to use these kind of internal things about pausing for compassion and being friends for life. And
what does that mean?
Friends for life means that we treat you as a person before we treat you as a number or an employee. Does that mean you don't have standards? Nope, because being friends for life means that if you don't show up for work for 5 days in a row, I'm not being a very good friend to your coworker if I don't actually say, hey, you got to show up for work or else you're not going to have a place here anymore, right?
So it's this idea of like radical candor where you say, like, I care so much about you that I'm going to be really brutally honest with you. You may not like it, right? But that's what a good friend does.
Right.
My best friend once punched me in the face because I was going to do something stupid.
Tell me about this. What were you going to do that was stupid?
Well, I was going to get in a car and drive after I'd had a few beverages.
And he punched you?
Yeah. It's still my best friend to this day, and he knows I would do the same for him. And
that's amazing.
And so my problem, though, with that is now I kind of balance everybody's, like, the people that are in everybody's life. Are your best friends punching you in the face if you're going to do something stupid? Like, but I also do need a swat in the head. Like, if I'm about to do something stupid, which I do a lot of stupid things.
I just saw one of your team members nodding.
Oh, they're nodding at me right now? Yeah.
About the swat in the head? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. Well, that's why they're here, and that's why I want to empower everybody on our team to feel comfortable swatting me in the head.
Right.
Because I need it.
You don't want to be surrounded by yes men. You want no men and no women to be around you, because otherwise you're going to have your blinders on and you're going to make really bad decisions.
I think I make mostly decent decisions, but I'm a creator, and there's 3 segments to this. There's the creator, the organizer, and the implementer. And each one of the people in our company, I've started analyzing what people do really well. And for example, Tiffany, who works for our team, who's our client concierge and our event planner, and probably a lot more than she wants to be doing right now, because there's a lot of hats being passed around. But she's an organizer and implementer, and I'm a biased, 100% lopsided creator. Like, I don't have, I'm good at leveraging, I think, but one of the things that's challenging is I can create something. I have ideas all the time.
All the time.
And I go to her, I'm like, I have an idea. She's like, oh my
Shiny
God,
objects.
another one. I have a lot of ideas. And she takes them and she synthesizes them and processes them and comes back to me and says, okay, here's your stick figure. It's a lot better. But we need people like that, right?
Right. So I guess that's my point on like if given left to your own devices, you would have a lot of terrible ideas because you can't implement all of them. They're not all good ideas.
No.
And so yes, a team is so important to keep around you and not having people that tell you that your ideas are good all the time. Otherwise, Lord knows, I would have a French fry truck right now that was outside of bars from 10 o'clock until 2 a.m. in Bellingham if I didn't have my team.
So next to you would be my breakfast taco truck?
Yes.
I make
we
breakfast
both have
tacos.
bad ideas. Bad food ideas.
Oh,
it's I own the website for my French fry truck still, you guys. So
what's the domain name?
Superfry.com.
Superfry.com. But it's going to happen one day.
Potentially. I mean, I personally don't want to get called at 11 o'clock at night when the cheese sauce dispenser has run out, though. So that is what's holding me back from this amazing French fry truck idea and why I'm buying buildings instead.
Do you know what's holding me back from starting a taco truck?
Tell me more.
There's already other taco trucks that I like
That
eating.
do breakfast?
No, but you can get
Your
breakfast
idea was
tacos.
breakfast.
Where
would you park it? Would you park it at? Where would you park it? I would park mine outside like the downtown core for bars from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. So you're stumbling out of the bar and you're like,
Munchy food.
French fries looks amazing.
Pie hole, but you're competing with pie hole and you have French fries instead.
I have French fries that I sell by the ounce with 50 kinds of toppings, including sweet and savory toppings. And there's 3 kinds of French fries.
So you've got the
have this business plan
panko
totally
crusted.
done.
You've got like the McDonald's style. You have the thick cut. What else?
Curly fries.
Oh, okay.
Sweet potato fries.
Love them.
And traditional fries.
What about zucchini fries?
You know what?
Is that too hippie?
Well, you know what? The zucchini fries is a great idea, but at 2 a.m. in the morning when you're stumbling out of a bar drunk and you want to sop up that alcohol, are you making good decisions at that moment and taking zucchini fries?
I mean, I probably would just order whatever I could. One eye on the menu, to be quite honest.
It's not a zucchini fry. You want a regular fry. So anyways, yes, you and I both have crazy like food ideas, and thank God for teams because instead you are doing your genius, which is collaborative real estate, and I'm doing my genius, which is selling raw materials to soap makers worldwide.
And thank you for keeping America clean.
I try.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping Bellingham in homes.
Yeah, that's our goal.
Okay.
That's our goal because we have a problem
With
homes.
housing affordability?
Yeah. And we don't need to go down that road. But I'm more curious. I know you have some like superhuman powers, but when you were a little kid, did you have any dream of like what kind of superpower you wanted to have? Or if you could have one.
Well, I mean, obviously. Well, first of all, my superhero ability is to order the best thing on the menu at all times.
How do you do that?
I don't know. It's obviously a gut instinct. I think it might be because I like to cook so much, so I instinctively can look and go like, oh, that flavor combo is good. But who knows? But my superhero ability is to always order the best thing on the menu.
That's the first time I've heard that. Typically, people go to like, well, I'd love to be invisible or fly or be able to shoot laser beams.
Well, you asked me what my superhero ability was, not what I wanted. I mean, who wouldn't want to be invisible?
I don't want to be invisible.
No,
I want to fly. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't want to be Superman because Superman's kind of a lame superhero.
Flying would also be way faster to get most places.
Yeah,
TSA pre-check doesn't even get you places fast anymore.
But you could get through TSA pre-check if you were invisible.
We could team up.
We could team up. The best of both worlds.
I'll put my invisibility cloak around you, and then we can fly.
Perfect.
Okay.
Team, right?
Team.
So when it comes down to advice that you have for other people, because there's a lot of people that I know look up to you. There's a lot of people who don't know you yet, which this is the whole goal of this podcast, to get to know you. That will look up to you. I look up to you. I don't know you incredibly well, but we're getting to know each other better, and I admire you in a lot of ways. And I think that I'd love to have some advice that you would pass along to your younger self, which could also be passed along to other potential entrepreneurs or wantrepreneurs like myself.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that, I wrote an entire book about like my whole, like just life philosophy synthesized, which is basically me giving advice for 280 pages. So there's that. Definitely read the book on how to live your best day ever.
Which if you search it, there's a ton of
them. Yeah.
There's a ton of search results that come up for your book. And then if you go on the second page, there's a best day ever with SpongeBob. if you go a couple
Nice.
pages back. So I just want you guys to know that buy the book, but then go to the next page if you want to watch that
The
part of
SpongeBob, it's the best
Yeah.
day ever. Do, 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 do. I know that song.
See, tell me, is that what inspired the book title?
That is not what inspired the book title. That delusional optimism, literally for 10 years, if not 15, people would be like, hey, how's it going, Anne-Marie? And my answer was always exactly the same. It's the best day ever. It's the best day ever. It's the best day ever.
What if it was the worst day ever?
It didn't matter. It was always the best day ever because it was always a mindset thing, right? Because it doesn't matter what your situation is. It's your situation no matter how you are acting about it, right? Like, I don't want to jinx us by saying anything, but like if a meteor came down and hit over there and all of a sudden it's just us 6 or whatever in a studio and this is all we have, we can either have a really great attitude about it or a really crappy attitude about it. We're still stuck in a studio with only 4 ounces of wine left and a meteor over there, right? We can have a great attitude about it or we can have a bad attitude, but we are still in the same exact situation. And so my day was always the best day ever. And it is pretty much still always the best day ever. So that's where the title of the book came. But in terms of advice, my parents had to ban books from the dinner table because I read so much. But it's leaders or readers. Like there is not one single subject that you want to know about that 20 people, 40 people, 150 people haven't written books about. And now, thanks to the internet and thanks to podcasts and thanks for those things, those people are amplifying their voices with podcasts and with YouTube videos and with articles that they're blogging about on Forbes and the like. And so you can learn anything you want from any leader about anything at all times. And so devote yourself to improving yourself by reading. And if you want to go an extra step further, make tiny little book clubs around the reading. So for example, I have a business book club that I read the same book with 7 business people every single month. And we talk about the business book. We talk about practices that we're taking away from it, and we help keep each other accountable. I'm preparing a lot right now because I'm getting ready to interview Gloria Steinem at the Mount Baker Theater. And so I am really delving into feminism and everything about equal pay for equal work and that kind of stuff.
Quick shout out, that's next weekend?
It's November 22nd.
At what time?
That's I believe starts at 6 or 6:30. Yeah.
Okay, and it's at the Mount Baker Theater?
Mount Baker Theater. You can still get some tickets, actually.
This is awesome. And everybody should go to this, whether guy, girl. You should go to this because, and we're actually doing a little focus group too, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, we're doing a focus group to say like, hey, guys, I really want your thoughts. Is feminism still something that you guys think about? Like, how do you feel about working with women? How do you feel about equal pay? How do you like all that kind of stuff? What would you ask Gloria Steinem as a man? Right?
Yep.
And so I'm doing little tiny focus groups around that, but I'm also doing book clubs around that. Hey, let's read the same book and then let's talk about it. Because it's not just about reading, it's about absorbing and it's about then taking action from what you read. And so leaders are readers.
It's not just a hit list. It's not just a hit list of, I went through this Audible. And just to define that, because for me, I learn a lot better from an auditory perspective. So I listen to a lot of Audibles and I do podcasts. Would you still define that as kind of the same?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's however you're getting your learning in.
So I can be a leader.
You can be a leader. Yeah. Just be taking in ideas from other thought leaders and synthesizing them, right? Throwing out what doesn't work for you based on your practice or taking it in and going, that's an interesting way to think about that, right? Or, I like that practice. I want to add that to my life. And then what sometimes me and my different groups of people will do is have accountability groups around one particular habit. So like 6 months ago, we were sending each other 5 different things we were thankful for a whole month, but we had to come up with new things every single day. And
that's hard too, right?
Well, by day 5, you've moved past your family and your friends and your house and your car and your like things, your job that you love, right?
But when it's the best day ever, every day. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta live up to that, huh?
Right. But like, so today it's like, oh, well, if I'm on day 27 of 30 days of coming up with all brand new things, I'm going to be thankful for this wonderful French Burgundy you've provided and this fun, entertaining ability to talk for an hour and a half about myself, which, I mean, who doesn't love that? Thanks.
Well, I'm really enjoying it.
So leaders or readers, definitely the number one advice. And number 2 is business is a marathon, not a sprint. You have got to keep yourself in shape mentally and physically. That means eating the right stuff. That means going to sleep at the right time. That means practicing appropriate self-care. That means having relationships that really fill you up so you do have the energy to do the hard work. You are building an empire. You are going to have bigger team members. You're going to have more balls in the air at all times. How are you going to keep doing that? How is that going to look when you have 10 team members, 20 team members, 25, 40? What's it going to look like when you have that newborn at home and you're trying to do all this too, right? So it's a marathon, not a sprint. So be planning for that long haul, because you can't put in the hours you need to do as an entrepreneur if you are not fit enough to do it, mentally or physically. And then the third is that we've already talked about this, but just being surrounded by people that you really are inspired by people that you like and respect and admire, that people that teach you something every single day, people that are doing bigger business deals than you. Like one of my good friends is Erin Baker from Baker's Breakfast Cookies, and she is constantly on a plane doing the coolest business deals, right? Selling to all of Kroger's.
And she's selling cookies.
Right,
That's
cookies.
awesome.
And
that's a dream job.
Yeah, she's basically selling oatmeal in a cookie, right? Because it's not cookie. It's a really healthy thing, right? Sweetened with just prune juice, right? And so, but she's doing these really amazing, cool business deals that, since I'm direct to consumer, I don't do. And I don't have any access to those. But she'll tell me about the meeting. She'll tell me about how the opening gambit was. She'll tell me about negotiations. And I'm learning so much by having her in my life as a friend. And so just hanging out with people that are doing really cool, inspiring things, and it doesn't have to be in your industry, even better if it's not, because then you can take things that you've learned and bring it back to your own industry, which is kind of what you're trying to do with this podcast.
It's the key to life. I mean, I think that the best thing you can do is you can seek to provide value. You can start by leading with service, and if another person in our industry, just like you had talked about, comes to me and says, "Hey, what are you doing for this, that, or the other?" And I'm like, "Here you go." They're like, "Is that your secret sauce?" I'm like, there's no secret sauce, because this is something that I've R&D'd from somebody else and I've made it our own. And at the end of the day, 99% of people, well, what is it, 87% of statistics are made up. So right. I just made that statistic up. But let's just say the vast majority of people won't do anything.
Right.
And then there's a small percentage that do it and don't do it consistently. And then there's an even smaller percentage of people that if they do it better than you, boom. Now we have innovation. Now we have collaboration. Now it's like, wow, that's a great idea. And that stemmed from
the seed
B+ idea turned into an A+ idea. And so that resonates a lot with me from the perspective of collaboration. I think a lot about that. So besides your book, which is Live Your Best Day Ever, what other books would you recommend? Because everybody should read that book.
Thank you. Yes. No. So let's see. The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey is, of course, just a solid. That is one I read every few years. It's so good. I love Fire Starter Sessions by Danielle Laporte, which is all about kind of trying to figure out what you want your core desired feelings to be, as opposed to what you want the things to be. So like, I want to feel joy every day, right? I want to feel vibrant every day. Okay, so what do you need to do that? That's kind of what that book is about. I love The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. It's such a good book. It takes forever to get through because there's so many exercises, but it's just phenomenal. Darren Hardy has a book called The Compound Effect that I love. It's all about it's all about habits. That one is just fantastic. And so those are, like, if you're going to read 4 books, just go read those ones. And if you can put even 10% of those books into practice, like, you'll be so much further along next year than you are right now.
And most people read books. Most successful people read books multiple times, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's really interesting to think that you could try to implement 100% of something on the first time. It's just totally.
Well, and if you look at how success is, it's not success is not giant leaps and bounds, right? It's, Britney Spears was on the Disney Club for like 6 years and then doing beauty pageants and that kind of stuff before. She had been a performer since she was 4. And then she finally got famous at 18, and it was like, oh, where did this wonder come from, right? Lady Gaga, she went to Carnegie, right? Like, where did they come from? No. They had 2 decades of working on this stuff, right? Getting better 5%, 10% of the time, never more than that.
The 20-year overnight success.
Right. And so, like, you and I can do that too. We can all do that. Get better every single day in little ways, and then in 10 years, because little tiny daily habits compounded by time produce great results.
Wow. I'm going to let that sit for a second. I do kind of have this hunch that you can do a really good Britney impression. Can you do a quick Britney impression?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Is it? Oh, I feel like I need more wine, but like, hit me, baby, one more time. My loneliness is killing me, and I must confess, I still believe, if I'm not losing, I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me, baby, one more time.
It's Britney, bitch.
I feel like I'm very red now. Thank you very much for that.
I'm just here to push you out of your comfort zone.
I've never done karaoke, so.
But I think you'd probably do pretty well at it. I am really curious because we've talked a lot about a lot. There's this whole like convergence of hard work and luck.
Sure. Harder I work, the luckier I get, or the luckier, yeah.
What's your philosophy on that? Do you feel like a lot of the success that you have currently, or your company has currently, because your success is defined by you, but also by the people around you. But do you feel like your success that you have right now and that you're going to have is attributed to luck or skill or hard work? What's your secret sauce?
Well, so studies show that luck is not just luck, right? It's recognizing opportunity, and they say luck is preparation meeting opportunity, right? And so being at the right place at the right time, but then also recognizing it, and then also having the resources, which includes your tenacity, includes your resilience, includes your hard work to put things into place. And so I think that there's many times in my last 20 years in business that many others would have quit, for sure. No ifs, ands, or buts. So I think it's less about luck. I started my business at the right time, right? Who starts a business in 1998 on the internet? Nobody, right?
I was 7 years old.
Right.
I was thinking about it, but
You're definitely thinking about it, right?
Yeah,
but like, and I was 20, right? So like no one does that. So like that was somewhat luck in the sense that like the internet was still in its infancy, but the rest of it has all been a series of missteps and hard work and trial and error and doing the work that others won't do to get what others won't have.
Wow. So it's very simple, is what you're saying. It's not about just happening to be at the right place at the right time and just not doing anything about it. You're saying that you've had failures,
lots of them,
and you learn a lot from those. And you can recognize when something's about to happen because of the failure, not because you've read it in a book. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, I am literally right in the middle of my biggest career failure, which I will solve, and my team and I will solve, and it will be great, and we'll look back at this in 10 years and be like, wow, remember that?
And you're just going to keep selling soap and candles, and chapstick, which I saw on your Instagram the other day.
Yeah, you want to learn how to make lip balm? I can teach you.
My wife would love to.
So, you know what? That is the greatest date night ever. Get the kit, bring it home, get a nice bottle of French Burgundy, and make lip balm with her.
This is amazing.
Best date night ever.
I need more tips on how to do the best date night ever.
Exactly.
Creativity. Thank you.
Creativity.
Well, you've been an absolute joy to have on the show. We're almost done with this bottle of wine, so we're working on it. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for telling us about you and being vulnerable and just being here and being present. That's sometimes I know we get caught up in our busy lives, and it means a lot to me because I've learned a lot, and I know that all of us here have learned a lot from you, and we admire you.
Well, and that's nice of you to say, and thank you for having me on and letting me talk for an hour and a half, and thanks for coming to that first political fundraiser you came to at my house. There will be many more.
Yes, and I'll be there.
I'm excited.
And I will be there on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Go team.
Thanks, Anne-Marie, for being on the show, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
It's going to be awesome.
Boom.
Boom.